1794, the 6th summer. Welcome to Round the Mulberry Bush. I'm Lynx, and we are playing Round the Mulberry Bush. I don't know why I said it twice. Don't even ask me. Don't even ask me. Let's get with the story. Let's see where this is going. By the 6th summer, we had drifted even further, more surely than the fluffy white clouds in the bright blue sky. And one of the reasons for that is actually, surely, our MC's fault. I mean, let's face it, she literally said she has feelings for him there. The mulberry tree was still the same, with its gnarled trunk and bright green leaves. Jam-like fruits nestled within, but everything else was different. But then again, I guess 18th century, kinda tough situation. Matty was different. Matilda. And if Matty was no longer Matty, but Matilda, then I was different too. I missed her so much, so constantly, it was like an age. A longing so prevalent, it almost brought tears to my eyes. It was difficult during the day, but at least I had work to occupy me. Cleaning stables, brushing manes, slipping surreptitious sugar lumps on the sly to crab apples, success or rosemary. Not that Matilda would have appreciated it, Matty would have, but not Matilda. Matilda in her flouncy dresses, her neat hair, her silly little strips of frothy ribbon, did not spend much time in the stables. She would dirty her clothes, or chip a nail, or tangle her curls, and wouldn't that be terrible? Needless to say, she did not ride Rosemary. She would have ridden Rosemary were she younger, and she would have clamoured, tugging at my hands, the hem of my shirt for sugar lumps, or apple slices, or raw carrots, or to feed her noble steed. Matilda did not. Sometimes, when I tended to the poor, forgotten Rosemary, a pretty mare with deep, dark eyes fringed with long lashes, I would run my hands through her mane and sigh, and she seemed to sigh with me, heavy and horsey. I felt very much like that horse, for I wish I did not. I'd been abandoned by Matilda too. When we were younger, we lived in one another's pockets. A phrase my mother always liked to use. We're almost inseparable, for our respective classes would have made separation so simple, so easy, but we clung together all the same, invariably meeting beneath the old mulberry tree. She grew more and more distant as she became older and prettier, but I had tried to tell myself, hopefully, that this was not Matty's fault. It was because of her parents and tutors, and her ladylike duties and her, I don't know, commitment to French verbs, and the conjugation thereof. But they were just excuses, flimsy as the petals of a flower. Matilda was not avoiding because of happenstance, mere ill fortune. She was avoiding because she wanted to avoid me, and she no longer felt comfortable with me, and she did not like me. The time for liking stable hands with sunburned skin who smelled of sweat and sawdust and horse manure had passed. The times when Matty and I could be happy together were gone. I knew that only too well. With a pained knock against my ribcage when I saw Matilda, Lady Addison taking a turn in the garden with another perspective view, far more appealing than last season's Lord Burlington had been. I knew Matilda found him more appealing, and this supposition was not based on his looks. Fair hair, soft eyes, a daydreamy smile that spoke of introverted interests, dusty books and fresh ink, but on the way she addressed him. She did not, as she had done with Lord Burlington, hold him at the verbal equivalent of arm's length, her laughter hollow, her smiles fixed and forced. She did not address him by his last name. She called him, quite simply, as for any relationship between a man and a woman, both with high standing, with a fair amount of money, to their much exalted names could be that simple. Meredith. That's a female name, isn't it? Meredith Asha. A person I knew I would never, no matter how many summers came to pass, be able to compete with. How could I, when he had been born to money and I had not? I mean, to be fair, let's face it, this is a case still. I had not realized this fact when I was a small child, but it became abundantly clear as I grew older. Those who had money and lived with plenty had a certain look about them, an expression that settled upon their countenances quite comfortably like dust on an old furniture. Smiles. They were often wreathed with smiles, and made light conversation and spoke in lilting tones like falling cranes because they could afford to. They could be genial and pleasant and curtsy or bow and shake hands when required, neither gripping too firmly not too feebly, because they lived charmed lives, and they never needed to bother themselves with the drudgery of hard labor. Their effortless, easy charm had been bred into them, and nurtured by their wealth, their riches, their slowly swelling pride as they grew older. They were a different species. They were like peacocks, and I was a mere pheasant. I felt guilty for even watching Matilda and Meredith, and I had not intended to watch them either, for even though I was curious about Matilda's affairs, I would always be curious, knowing she went to dances and ate dinner and engaged in light conversation with men who were so far above my own social station was painful, and I could hardly do anything about it. I did not see the point in torturing myself for something I could not change. When I happened upon Matilda and Meredith, however, I found myself incapable of turning my gaze, for I should have been delivering a barrow full of hay to the stables. I do not know how long I stood there, staring. On that, I did stare, until the summer sun burned my scalp and seemed to bleach my hair, and then Matilda turned and saw me and started to giggle, holding one hand against her hips. As for the expression of pain that must have clouded my features was amusing. Well, I was overjoyed that my suffering caused her such an inexplicable pleasure. So overjoyed it made me feel nauseous, and I had to duck my head lest she noticed how my teeth grit together and my cheeks turned pale. After that I tried to avoid Matilda, which should not have been overly difficult, given our roles did not lend us to spend much time together, and I had hardly interacted with her for some 4 or 5 months in an event, but...
Oh, is that you, Oliver?
Life, as I have learned, has a nasty habit of surprising you when you least desire to be surprised. She was standing beneath the mulberry tree, as she had been when I first met her, but she was taller, with willowy limbs, and her skin was smooth, soft, clear. Those familiar freckles were still splashed across her nose, like stars in the sky, but her fingers were pure white, untainted by the black-red juice of countless berries. It stood to reason. How would she be able to sew or play the piano or style her hair with fingers spattered with juice up to the knuckle, and seeds wedged between those fine fingernails, even more delicate than boned china? I opened my mouth, my throat dry, and realized I did not know what to say. I did not know what to call her. Matty, Matilda, Lady Addison. None of them sounded quite right. As I stared, the woman before me, not a girl, but truly a woman, her face seemed to mix and merge together, a broken mirror reflecting 15 different people, distorted. What Matty had been to me, and what she was now, I couldn't reconcile all the contradictory images. I squeezed my eyes shut, pressing my head against my temple. I could feel a headache beginning to stir beneath the surface, so my eyes sparkled inside my skull.
Oliver,
she asked with her round vowels and her false concern.
Are you alright?
I wrenched my eyelids open, with every last bit of willpower I possessed, and tried to nod. The motion was jerky, but I managed to eat nevertheless. I did not want to appear weak in front of her. I'd already seen how she scorned my weaknesses, and I did not want to become another joke exchange between herself and Meredith in between diatribes about the oeuvre of Bach. That was what affluent men and women spoke of, wasn't it? Composers, artists, architects. Yeah, definitely. I did not know. There was no way for me to know, because I would never be invited to engage in such an exciting conversation. Define exciting. I feel fine, I told her, trying to exorcise the tremors from my tone. I should be going back to the stables.
You are always at the stables nowadays,
she said archly, her brows raised. Yes, I am, I told her, because that is my job.
True enough,
she said with a small laugh.
as attending balls and playing bits and pieces of the piano for those who inquire about my so-called skills is mine.
I'm sure you are very skillful, I said, trying to match the disdain in my tone to her own. I did not know whether she was skillful or not. I'd never heard her play the piano, for I had heard her complaining about it countless times when we were younger and the world had been so much simpler. When I had understood Matty, and she had understood me, and we had fit together despite being two odd dissection pieces, in perfect harmony. I could not understand her now.
That is what Meredith says, she told me, her voice soft. He's so fond of my piano, for he must know, being a musician himself, that my technique is laughable, childish, really. If only I had paid more attention when I was younger.
Well, if you had paid more attention, you would not have been Matty. My Matty. I had to bite down my lower lip to stop myself from uttering the possessive.
I suppose I would not have been, she said. Honestly, I feel so sorry for my tutors. I must have been a menace. Always running around barefoot, tracking dirt into the carpets, twigs in my hair, a hellion, Satan's spawn.
But I had far preferred her like that. I take it Lord Asher is quite smitten with the current Lady Addison.
Yes,
she said distractedly, and either she did not hear the bitterness that edged its way about my words, or she did not care to correct me. She was lady, after all, and she had better things to do with her time than to correct the words of a mere servant.
He's quite smitten, she said.
I had known as much, but hearing it confirmed from her lips, and so casually too, as though it made not one whit of difference to our relationship, stung. Her words were like knives. They cut right through, and out the other side. That was one thing about her that had not changed, for her eyes were less pointed, less intense. She no longer smoldered brilliant and bright, but she continued to flicker, a few dim embers left dying by the hearthside. Soon, Lord Asher would sweep them away. Or should I say sweep them away. He would ask for Matty's hand in marriage, and her parents would agree to the union because he was wealthy and so very polite, and Matty would agree because she had been coached in the art of agreeing to men. Wealthy men and not stable hands. Since girlhood, and though she tried to rebel, the pointed parts of her personality had been filed down, whittled away slowly but surely over the years. Over the long, long string of successive summers. The mulberries on the trees looked less beautiful when once they had done, the colors washed out, unreal. I hardly believed my own eyes. Matty, I said softly, the words breaking past the barrier of lips before I could stop them. Cram them back in, for I already regretted them. I had a good many regrets, I still do.
Oliver. Why are you so pliant? This is not like you.
Sorry. Why are you being so pliant? This is not like you.
Pliant?
She raised a brow, neatly plucked that arch above her right eye like a halo.
You believe I'm being pliant?
That's right, I said. You are being pliant. Horribly so, by allowing yourself to be charmed by wealthy Lord La-Dee-Da.
Lord La-Dee-Da indeed,
said Matty, and her nose wrinkled and she sniggered. For a few moments she looked so much like my Matty, unkempt and elfin in her mean-spirited amusement, that I want to crush her to my chest and hold her close, as I had done when Crab Apple died, and kiss her. I wanted to kiss her neck, the cheeks and lips, and the other areas of her skin that were off limits to my prying eyes. Skin that was warm and flushed, glowing beneath the ribbons and lace that attempted to conceal it. But her clothes could never hide just how beautiful she was. She was even more beautiful when she sniggered, childish once more, the spawn of a Satan that had driven so many tutors to destruction with their mournful moans and sighs and petty complaints. The girl is alone to herself. She is utterly unteachable. But they were wrong about that, because Matty had been taught, despite her attempted resistance. She'd been taught and she had learned, and her newfound knowledge had filtered through her childhood innocence, her childhood naivete, her simple childhood selfishness, and had warped her. Lady Addison stopped sniggering, and their wrinkles in her rose subsided, and their expression was once more careful, controlled.
Do not call Meredith that,
she reprimanded me,
he's a fine gentleman, and I like him.
And that was what it was all boiled down to, really. He was a gentleman, and I was not. You said you like him, I said, and I cannot deny your feelings. I do not know him well enough. I'm sure he's a fine man, but if you cannot deny it, do not speak further.
If you cannot deny it, do not speak further, she advised me. There are some things you do not need to say.
Not even to you, huh? I thought we shared everything with one another.
There was a time and place, but this is not it.
The place is still the same, I said, glancing with a certain amount of sadness about our secret bower, our Mulberry tree. Lady Addison Matilda Matty shook her head, and for a few minutes I thought she looked just as sad as I felt. But the illusion did not last very long.
The place may be the same, but the time has gone.
And she said it so simply, so perfectly, so beautifully. There was nothing more to add, and there was nothing more I could say. And she was correct, not just in her manners, and her breeding, and her clothes, and hair and skin, but in her words. Irrefutable. The place was the same, but we're not the same, and the time had well and truly gone. Where, oh where did all the time go? 1795, the 7th summer. By the 7th summer, Matty had ceased to exist. There was no more of that naughty ill-behaved little girl, the one who had stolen mulberries from the trees sneakily, surreptitiously, and popped them one by one into her tiny pink mouth, smearing black red juice all over her cheeks. The Matty only existed within my mind now, bright and bold, while all else around her was sad, wan and tinted with sepia. Matty could never be diminished, not even inside my head. Not even inside my dreams. I feel like it was supposed to be inside my head, but no matter how much time passed, I would always remember Matty how she had been. A ball of messy blonde hair and dirty fingernails, racked up socks and clumps of mud stuck against the heels of her shoes. But remembering did me little good, and offered no respite when contrasted against the girl she had grown up into. No, not a girl. Woman. Matty was no more, lost to me, like a laburnum pod scattering with the exhalations of the air. It was something I had suspected, for darkly grimly with a sense of trepidation and pained age, a knock of stress in the seat of my heart, for a long while. Now that I could see her standing beneath the mulberry tree, her hair cornflower blonde like a halo, I finally knew. She had not spotted me watching her, at least not yet. Her head was dark, a coil of hair cascading over one soft pale pink shoulder, and her lips were curved upwards in a small silly smile. Her right hand was held before her, the fingers spread, and a gold band glistened on her ring finger. Once the mulberries nestled away amongst the green leaves, even more appealing when contrasted with the dun-colored branches, had been the precious jewels that caught Matty's attention. Now it was the ring that sparkled on her finger. So she was lost to me. That little girl with the white eyes and the high forehead, smooth like an egg, always getting into scrapes and bruising her knees and infuriating her mother but captivating me, was gone. Dead and buried. You know what, it came to my mind right now. I'll forget later for sure, so said no. If you think about it, even back in 18th century, How many times there was a situation like that? Possibly. When, you know, a member of higher society would have feelings for lower society and lower for higher, right? But how many times they would actually like just give up because they were not at the supposed same level, right? I mean, it happens now as well, to be fair, but still. Kinda sad. Even from a distance, I could tell the ring that adorned her finger was expensive. Of course was. Lord Asher would never have insulted Lady Annington with a cheap ring, especially given it was to be a physical representation of his ardor, his passion, his devotion. I could not imagine a fair-faced, half-horned man like Meredith Usher being particularly passionate, and the thought was enough to make me feel faintly ill, but was what the bauble that decorated Matilda's finger signified nonetheless. Love. So he loved her, or at least he believed that he loved her. And Matilda, she must have loved him too. I could have tried to argue the point, and I did try. I tried desperately, but I knew it was all foolishness. You should not love him. She would not have accepted his vow. She would not have accepted his ring. Matilda may have changed a good deal since her girlhood, but I like to believe her core values had not shifted. I want to think, I so desperately wanted to think, that she was not the kind of woman who would promise her heart to a man she did not love. I could remember clearly the pact that Matty and I made all those years ago, beneath this tree.
So this is our little secret, right?
That's right, our little secret. Innocent words, childlike, that had been sealed with a mouthful of mulberries, sharp black juice exploding inside my mouth against my tongue. How vast and important, all-encompassing those words had seemed to be back then. How little they meant now. Almost a decade later, now Matilda was older, and a wedding band was fitted about her finger. Ring finger. She was going to be married. She was engaged to be married, and though the thought was painfully unbearably so, I hope she did love him. I could not imagine anybody loving Meredith Usher, who seemed too soft, too vague, too ephemeral to be loved by anybody, least of all a woman like Matilda, but I hope that she did all the same. If she did not love him, and she had accepted his proposal merely for the sake of wealth, or status, or her parents' approval, I would have hated her. I would have loathed her, truly loathed her, and I would not have been able to live with myself. I would not have been able to live in a world where the woman I loved, more than anybody else, had allowed herself to become so warped. I had to know. I had to ask her, for I knew the answer would be painful, no matter what single word syllable would fall from her lips. Yes, in which case, for I would still love her. She could never love me. No, in which case, for there was still a chance she could love me, I could never love her.
Lady Addison?
I attempted, my voice soft, hesitant. Afraid. I'd been afraid when I first met her. Too, beneath the leaves of this mulberry tree, two small insignificants sheltering from the sun. I'd known back then, for she was younger than me and smaller, with big eyes and dainty feet and tiny hands, that she would one day destroy me. It was inevitable, when she was so very high above me in social status, but I was so very in love. I had always loved her, ever since I met her.
Ah!
Matilda blinked, her lips parting with a small "oh" of surprise, and lifted her head. She brushed a few strands of blonde hair out of her face behind her ear. Her motions were so graceful, so well practiced, worlds apart from the awkward mannerisms of her youth, that it hurt. Every word she said, every action she performed, every expression that crossed her countenance was painful. The mere act of breathing in the air, infused with the scent of mulberries, suddenly sickly sweet, made me choke.
Oliver?
Asked Matilda, and she looked strangely guilty, as though she had been caught in some secret ritual.
It's been quite some time.
That was how all of our interactions began. It's been quite some time. We rarely spoke to one another now. We, who had once been so close, had been rendered little more than strangers. I wondered if we were to be lost in a crowd, adrift amidst a sea of people. whether she would be able to recognize my face. I could pick out hers, whether we're tempest tossed amongst 100 people or 1,000, but could Matilda do the same? Probably not. Not when she had that ring on her finger. Not when she had fallen in love with somebody else. It would be improper for the future wife Lord Usher to fixate upon a mere stable hand. Unthinkable. Why then had I allowed myself such thoughts? Lady Addison, I swallowed and shifted one hand through my hair, but nothing helped lessen my nerves. Is it true? She did not need to ask what I was referring to because she knew. It must be obvious.
I'm to be married to Meredith, yes.
Oh, I see, I said, and I paused because I didn't know what else to say. And for how long?
He asked me at the beginning of May, so 3 weeks ago, I suppose.
3 weeks. She nodded. 3 weeks, and you did not think to tell me. Why? I winced, and I knew my expression was contorted into something rude, something ugly, but I could not hide the true nature of my feelings from Matty no matter how hard I tried. I'd never been able to. I loved her too much. I loved her, and I wanted her to love all of me. Anything else would have felt like a lie, a sham, and I would not be able to survive knowing I had tricked her, whether unwittingly or no. But it was foolish. I was foolish. Matilda would never love all of me. And now, when she did not even love a part of me.
I'm sorry, Oliver,
she said, holding her hands at her front, her eyes downcast. It did not make me feel any better.
I just thought...
I did not have the right to know.
Well, we do not talk to one another as once we did. I don't know if such affairs would interest you. And I assumed Bertha would have told you already.
But I would rather have heard it from you.
I apologize, but I have been so frightfully busy lately. It fell by the wayside.
It was nice to know just how highly Matilda thought of me. The wayside. She might as well have said compost heap.
Moreover,
Matilda frowned. She no longer looked sorry. Instead, she seemed stronger, bolder, more resolute.
I have no reason to explain my actions to you. You might have been dear to me once, Oliver, but the fact remains that you are a servant and I am a lady. It would not have worked.
And she was right, of course. It would not. But I left my self-belief. I grit my teeth together so hard I feared they might splinter. For her refusal, blunt and frank and without any kind of ladylike grace, should have hurt, should have made me hate her. It did the opposite. It made me love her more than ever, because it let me know the girl I had fallen in love with, my Matty, still existed somewhere beyond the ruffles and ribbons and lace. For a few moments, for a scan, her expression looked so much like my Matty's, I felt my heart skip a beat. Matty, I said, and my voice no longer trembled because I was sure of myself now, surer than I ever had been. I was a fool to doubt it. Perhaps I had not loved her as much as I thought, to think that she might betray me so deeply. To think that she, Matilda Addison, was never ever a Mary for social standing and not for her own feelings. She was too earnest, too honest, too open for that. She always had been. She always had been and always would be. And though she was much changed and she did not love me, I loved her and I knew I would always love her, and that thought was enough. It was more than enough.
Oliver, what are you...
But Matty's voice was cut off utterly, completely. Before I knew what I was doing, I found myself kissing her. What? Okay, I did not expect that. She tried to push me away, her fingers pressed against my chest, but I did not relent. I had loved Matty for as long as I could remember, and I had wished to kiss her more than there are stars in the sky. More than there were mulberries, festooned in the branches of the mulberry tree above our heads. I wanted her for too long, and I had loved her for too long, and I could not let her go. Honestly, that should not... Yeah, dude, you should have not be doing that for... anyway, if I did, I knew I would never get such a chance again. Our relationship would be ruined irreparably. It'd been in the slow, painful progress of disintegration for years, fueled by Matty's own disinterest, but this act of misconduct on my part would ruin everything. She was to be engaged to a lord, and I was a mere stable hand, a man who tended to the horses she was now too refined and elegant to ride. I could never be anything more. I was overstepping my boundaries grossly, and my life serving the Addisons, the life I had built up for myself, of feeding Rosemary's sugar lumps, and joking with my father, and exchanging idle gossip with Bertha, would be ruined, dashed in one fell swoop, like knocking a bottle of ink over a piece of parchment. So I could not let her go. I could not let her go because when I did, everything would come crashing down around me. The happiness I could feel blossoming inside my chest, pounding so hard my heart threatened to burst in a macabre shower. The happiness I would no longer feel, and would never be allowed to feel again, as I would be dismissed from my position, flung away carelessly without applause like a refuse. This was the first and last time I would ever be able to kiss Matty. I had to make it count. I had to let her know how I felt. The harder she tried to resist, the closer I pulled her against me. Her chest was pressed against mine, and I could feel her breasts rising up and down, panicked, her heart pounding as quickly as a baby bird's. She was so soft and warm and full of life. She was still Matty, my Matty. I had insulted her before, many months ago. I had called her pliant. She was anything but. Oh, you know what, now that I think about it? Could it be? Because there is a certain tag in this game, and it is known around the world as a Yandere. I totally did not expect that. I mean, the moment I saw the tag, right? So it was when I published the first video. I was like, huh, so she might be a Yandere, interesting. But you know what, now that I think about it, it might be the other way around. What the heck? The youth might be one. Wow. She was not playing the slightest, she not acquiesced to my embraces. She fought bitterly, every single step of the way, trying to claw at my flesh, drawing a thin line that bubbled blood, and her teeth beat against my lower lip, but I did not let her go. I could not fathom how I had managed to survive for so long. 7 long, painful years without holding the object of my affection close, and inhaling her scent, tasting her saliva and letting her know without words just how much I loved her. I would lose myself if I let her go now. I would go mad. Perhaps I have restarted to go mad. I pushed her back against the bark of the mulberry tree, or childhood hound, or secret hideout, and suppose I was too rough, and must have heard because she whimpered and tried to resist, but her arms were slender and delicate, and she could not. She might have been a lady of a far higher social standing than myself, but such distinctions did not overly matter when I had her pinned in a place, my lips smashed against her own, so she could not even scream. Everything was meaningless except her and the smell of her skin, and the blood that coursed within her light blue veins. She bit down my tongue hard, and I tasted blood. It bubbled up inside my mouth, like a spring tart and bitter like the mulberries black-red, but I could not stop kissing her. I could taste blood, and I wondered if she could taste mine, too, my blood in her mouth, against her tongue, the fruits of her labor. Her attempt at escape. An escape that remained nothing more than a fleeting concept, a childlike hope, because I would not let her go. I was glad that she fought, not because seeing her distress was particularly arousing, but because it reaffirmed more strongly than ever then that for she was Lady Addison, she was still Matty. First and foremost, she was Matty. Dude. He's crazy, by the way. She was strong, and she was brave, and she would not bow to the whims of any man, and how could that not make me love her? How could not make me want to possess her? Okay. With that line, it clears. Dude is crazy. But I knew, if I were to love her too candidly, too brazenly, she would grow to hate me. She must have already hated me, otherwise she would not have been trying so hard to push me away. Her body jerking as for prodded with a pin when I cupped her breast in her hands. I could not see her face, but I thought she might have been crying, hot angry tears prickling the corners of her eyes. Hatred. She hated me. She hated me, and with her every breath, the erratic rising and falling of her chest, she cursed me. If I had not been kissing her so fervently, bloody kisses that stained her teeth red, she would have condemned me to hell. I hate you, Oliver. I really, really hate you. That thought that she might hate me was more terrifying than the thought of being sent away. But no, I would not be sent away, because this was not a single kiss. It had escalated to something far, far further than that. I had intended to kiss her, and only to kiss her, a scandalous act, surely, and serious yes, but not utterly unforgivable. The action of an overly eager man who threw a caution to the wind and forgot to toe the line. And who could blame me? Matty was beautiful. I mean, I can't blame you. Don't do that. But this was not a simple kiss. I was too deeply entrenched, lost in my feelings of love. I could not let Matty go. I would die if I let her go, even if she was at everything as best she could to kill me before I could ruin her. Dude. She could not do much with her hands pinned behind her back. I mean, to be fair, she could just freaking knee you in a certain area. She could do even less when she was sprawled on the ground, the back of her head hilting a gnarled root with a crack so sickly it almost made me feel breathless. Oh boy. I could hardly breathe at all. Oh boy. Matty was crying. Still, she looked beautiful. I think the tears made her even more beautiful. Okay, that's a weird thing to say. I don't get it. Was it really so wrong for me to want to show the woman I love just how deeply my affections are run? That way you did that? Yes. Was it wrong for me to touch her? Yes. Threading my fingertips across her pale skin? Yes. Pressing kiss against her lips? Yes. Trying to implore her to return my feelings from the bottom of my heart? Yes? I mean, the way you go about it, yes. I don't think it was wrong, but Matty did. She must have done. I imagined that she wanted to dig her fingernails into my eyes deep up to the knuckle, until I cried tears of blood and could never see her pretty face again. I did not deserve to. Okay, okay. Actually, with your actions, you kinda did. But I could not help myself, even if Matty struggled and fought and protested silently every single step of the way. I could not help myself from loving her, to such an extent that the thought of being hated made my heart stammer instead my chest, as though it had reached a full stop. I could not bear the thought of her hating me. So maybe that is why I did it. You made her hate you, basically. Come on. I let my fingertips trail up her smooth skin, now exposed beneath the doubled sunlight that filtered from both, and tightened them about her throat. Huh? Her lovely, delicate, pale white throat. It was better this way. I reasoned, as she writhed beneath me. Her skirts rumpled, the curls falling from her hair, the silly strip of ribbon unfurling, tugging pinned beneath her head and the ground and fluttering in the breeze. This way, I would never have to hear her say it. For I knew, as truly as I knew her, struggles were growing, less frantic, her irises misty, that she was thinking it. I hate you. If she never said it, perhaps it would never be so. Perhaps she would ever hate me, and this would never happen, and I would not been sitting above her, choking her, while she tried to fight and failed. If I closed my eyes and let myself believe we could still be children together, young and naive, and I was in love with her, and maybe she was in love with me. Just a little bit. Once upon a time. I mean, I would say she definitely was. But it's not like you actually tried to... I mean, Dude never really tried to express his actual feelings, right? At least as far as we know. He never said anything. So... I don't know, maybe it's me. There is some music, but I actually lowered the volume in the game because the previous music was super loud, kind of. And now I literally can't hear anything, actually. Oh, there is something now. A little bit louder for a second, and now it's gone back. Man. I totally did not expect the guy to be a Yandere, even though, you know. I guess it was him that kind of supposedly was having the feelings, well, she didn't have, right? Supposedly. Let's face it, we only have seen his side of the view, but I would say she did have feelings for the Stableboy of ours here. But dude, he turned out into a Yandere. I did not see that. Again, as I mentioned, I've seen the tag. I totally expected her to be one for some reason. I don't know, I feel like with the tag Yandere you kind of expect the female character to be one, right? Wow, Lynx, you are such a person that assumes things. How can you? I totally am. I totally am that kind of person. Man, it was still a great story, though. Ebi-hime delivers a great story once again. Hope you all enjoyed as well. Obviously, consider liking the video if you did. And subscribe if you're fresh. We are definitely going to visit more VNs from ebi-hime here. Both free and not free, to be fair. I actually don't know if we have any free games that we haven't played at that point. Oh, I think this is one. Do I have this downloaded, or maybe we did play it actually. Never mind. Oh, or there is also an option I actually have it on Steam, so. And right now I'm actually looking at each. Huh. Alright. Let's end it here. Yeah. Hope you all have a wonderful day, and hopefully I'll see you in the next game too. Bye bye.